Alright, tonight we have sort of an emergency repair saga. This is the tilt actuator for my good friend Kelly's power wheelchair. And you can see that part's supposed to be together. Now this is a REAC RE 25.4.100. No, that can't be the part number. There's their part number. It's a Permobile chair, and their part number is 612805. Anyways, this thing came apart. Their response was, it can't be fixed, so therefore they weren't going to fix it. That, of course, is ridiculous. Everything can be fixed. So they didn't know how to do it. She's trapped, essentially, right now. Somebody has to wait on her hand and foot. So that seems like a crappy thing, so I figured I'd have a look at it. I ran over there tonight, and lo and behold, what did we find? Well, down inside there is a drive nut, and it had this plastic, rather beat up, granted, plastic cap that screwed in here that prevented the drive nut from going too far, and then a little stop that appears to be broken off down in there. Well, the nut was spot welded apparently to this. Looks like it's maybe been broken for a little while. I'd say there was a nut and then it was crimped down. Anyways, half the nut's on the shaft, half the nut is still stuck in this shaft. So what we got to do is trick the unit into operating and spinning so that it will barf out that nut down in there. And then once we get it out, piece of gear teeth coming out. Once we get it out, we can look at it. My big fear is that it's bronze. And if it's bronze, well, there's just not a whole lot I can do. I mean, there's still about 2 threads in here. Before we give up on it, let's see if we can get it out of the hole. I've got my VARIAC here. I'm running it through a diode, and I have it set to about 18 volts. Look at that. Wow. Unfixable. What a crock of crap. Alright, so it appears that when it's stripped out, it only took 1 spool of threads with it. Alright, well that'll put it back together and get her chair functional. But it isn't going to solve the end-all problems. God, it's only going to give her 1 thread. 1 single thread. No stop on the end. You know, it looks a lot like jack thread. I'm going to go dig in my pile of old jacks. Just 'cause. Okay, the jacks didn't prove fruitful, but I do now understand what happened. So it has this rolled crimped edge, and that of course crimps in this brass nut right here. And what you can clearly see is that that has been run out to its limits time and time again, and that's what's broken this, is hitting the stops, and it's pulled and pulled and pulled until it finally broke off and she flopped down and then was stuck for 2 or 3 hours before anybody could catch on something was wrong and come to the rescue. Now I can certainly put it back together and get it functional, but that isn't gonna stop the specific problem we're having. I mean, it's not a repair. I mean, it really isn't. It's just a they were going to take the chair, and because the chair right now is completely unusable, they were going to take the chair, remove it, and she was just going to have to be completely dependent upon others while they go through the process of getting a new updated chair. They said this wasn't fixable. So what I can do is I can get it operational again. That I can do easy enough. We're only going to have 2 threads of bronze in there, but I don't believe it was an overload situation. I believe it was an over-threading situation. She just ran it all the way out again and again and again, not knowing, shall we say, any different. In fact, I can see the vast majority of this has been used right here. So what I'm trying to figure out is a way to extend this thinking about how can I move the mounts, really. Is there a way that I can move the mount so that this unit, so this is another rolled crimped, this happens to be steel, so that I can get it useful for her again. I think it's a bad adjustment on the part of the chair, a bad setting. It spent too much time right here at the end of its threads. You do some more head scratching. So my idea was to get a piece that would slip over here, put the pin in, put a little extension on, and then we could extend this piston 1 inch, which would leave it farther down inside. But I'm stymied by the fact that I don't have a metal lathe. So while I think this is an acceptable fit, it's not perfect, I can't find anything that would go into it and be better. Well, maybe what I'll do is I'll put this back together, a little grease on it, and I'll put it back in the chair. At least tonight, that'll get us all operational. And if I have to, I could always build something that just locks the chair in place in one, oh that's tight, one single position. I don't want to do that, but I could. That would be a fairly simple device, just a piece of pipe, you know, a piece of pipe at a set length, and while they hash this out, at least you won't be stranded. Okay. Alright, with our DC voltage back at 20, let's give it a test. I'll work on finding a better fit. Maybe I can borrow a metal lathe somewhere. I believe this was crossways. You know, it's important for a young woman in her 20s have some measure of independence. So this will get it back in the chair tonight, and then tomorrow I can come up with some sort of rigid arm, maybe. Just map out exactly how far she'd like it, and then put that in place. And she won't have the recline, but she'll have some functionality. Okay, I went and put that actuator in her wheelchair last night, and it worked fine. I mean, it was back up and completely functional. The problem, of course, is that it lacked any mechanical stop. So now she could run it towards the end and it would come right off, which is what she promptly did by accident. Ran it right up to the end and it popped right out. Now in this case, the weight of the chair wants to push the two pieces together, and it didn't come apart this time. But you know, it was just clear that she can't see it. She has no idea what's going on down there. She can't physically see it. So she's got no real warning as to at what point is just too far. She's going in for some surgery here. She was going to be completely without her wheelchair. They were going to come pick it up and they're going to start the process. Now they'll probably end up getting the process of a replacement chair anyways. I have no idea what the people who service her chair think of my coming in and fixing it, but I'm sorry, I meant no disrespect, but you guys don't, so I do, you know. So what I did is I made this bar here. I had her get her chair in a position. This is the seat back tilt, and I know how she broke it, and I kind of talked with her a bit about it. But what's she supposed to do? She was using her seat back tilt to get into her chair. So she would tilt it all the way forward, grab onto it, and then tilt it back, and then use that to pull herself into the chair. Now, it turns out the mechanism did not fail because of an overload. It failed because it hit those stops. You know, every night, I suspect, since she's gotten the chair, she's been bouncing off those stops, and that's how she, you know, gets in and out. What else is she going to do? If this piston had just been, I don't know, 2 inches longer, it probably wouldn't have happened. There's the stop right there that sheared off. It probably wouldn't have happened. And you know, if the Permobile chair guys are watching these, I don't think they are, but if they are, you know, I'm sure that's what she's doing. She's tipping the chair back forward, then she sort of hooks her arm over the armrest, and then she tilts her chair, and that's how she, you know, that's how she gets into it. And it wasn't that this failed from lifting that weight. I'm sure it's not good for it. I know it's not meant for it, but it was holding up and has held up for many years just fine. She failed because she'd run it to the spot where it stopped and squealed at her. Well, that's it hitting this mechanical stop here at the end, and that's what broke it off. Anyways, we're going to leave that piston in place because we don't dare remove anything from the chair. They get kind of touchy about that. We're a little worried about the lights that I installed for her, but I found some really nice high-intensity 24-volt LED lights, and I've made it quite clear she needs, at $20 a side, she needs to get those back. But I made this bar. I'll be able to take the bolts off that tilt piston one at a time and put this bar in place. And what that is that locks the chair into a comfortable spot. It's the best solution I can come up with right now. It'll lock the chair in a comfortable spot. She will not be able to use it to pull herself into the chair. She'll have to, I don't know, I hate to say it, she'll probably have to get help. She'll have to have her brother come every morning and help her into the chair. But as it was, she was in her wheelchair, and when I called her and when I went there to check on it, she was actually stuck in the bathroom because the wheelchair only clears the bathroom frame by like an inch. So she's got to thread the needle with ½ inch on each side, and anyway, she couldn't. So while this is not a perfect solution, I'm about to leave for 2 months. And if this thing were to run out and flip over, well, then there'd be nobody to put it back together for. So we're going to lock it in place. You know, if she ends up getting a new chair and sending it back with this bar in place, that's no skin off my nose. The high intensity LED lights, that would be a hit to the pocketbook, because I know she's going to want them on her new chair. I don't even know if I could find them again. But this is what we're going to do. If you are following this, we have a few of these wheelchair videos of the same Permobile chair. You know, always remember that this is an option. This bar is really honestly thicker than it needs. I think that 1/8 inch would have been appropriate. I think this is 3/16. You know, there's going to be some flex. Her pushing on it is going to try to push it together. When she pulls on her back, trying to push, it's going to try to push this rod together. I would have liked to have seen it pulling on these rods, which I know would be much stronger. But it's only 12.5 inches bolt to bolt, so I just don't see it. I don't see it folding up on her. I don't consider this one a win, but I don't consider it a loss. It's got her back on her power chair. The back of the power chair no longer flops down, and this way, okay, there might be some uncomfortable moments, or you won't be able to ease the pressure on her hips or whatnot. But she'll also be able to move around her house and be an independent woman. So, of all the options available to me right now, this is the best one I can think of.